Hello, my name's Alister McGrath, and as many of you will know, I have special interest in the relation of Christianity and what we now call the New Atheism. I used to be an atheist myself, although that was a long time ago, and I have moved on since then. But I still think that this interaction of Christianity and atheism really is important in helping us understand how we make sense of things and also engage with different viewpoints in the contemporary world. I've already been engaged in this conversation with the New Atheism, and it's a conversation I think that's very interesting, but of course it's a conversation that's moving on. And really I want to post a series of postings on the web which allow us to move that conversation on. I explore how we might move this on in a new book published recently with a slightly provocative title, Why God Won't Go Away. I thought it might be interesting to post 6 short postings on the web, basically raising some questions that arise from the New Atheism. Now clearly we won't have time to look at these in any detail, but I hope this very brief, very superficial engagement with these questions might be interesting. And of course you can always look at the book if you want to engage in these debates in more detail. So what's happened? The New Atheism arrived in 2006, that was some time ago. What's happened in the meantime? It seems to me that the New Atheism burst on the Western cultural scene back in 2006, full of energy and vitality. And it was characterized by these wonderfully turbocharged sound bites which captivated the media's attention. Things like religion kills, or God's a delusion, or faith is non-thinking. These are all very snappy little slogans. And of course the media loves sound bites, and these certainly were sound bites. And many drew the conclusion, I think rather prematurely, that religion was dead, that God was about to be pensioned off, but of course this time for good. It was time to clear out the junk in our attics, and belief in God for many was just a curious and obsolete relic from the past. And the idea was to start all over again. And I think it was the novelty value of the New Atheism that really gained media attention. Because older forms of atheism, like for example Iris Murdoch and people like that, or even Bertrand Russell, appealed to evidence-based argument, and they insisted on respect for religious belief and indeed people with those religious beliefs. But a New Atheism really swept those to one side. Basically, they wanted attention, and as the atheist blogger P.Z. Myers rightly pointed out, the old school of atheism, I quote from him here, was really, really boring. He's absolutely right. Atheism had got stuck in the mud. It really had to do something dramatic to attract media attention. For Myers, the only way really to capture the media attention was through outrageous slogans. And the media loved these breezy, simplistic little slogans. They were great for headlines, but I'm not so sure they were great for serious debate. Now, I think it's easy to see why the old school of atheism is worried. Indeed, many of my atheist friends tear their hair out worrying about the superficiality, the aggressiveness, the sheer simplicity of the New Atheism. They tell me, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, that hyperbolic, attention-seeking overstatement is hardwired into the New Atheist rhetoric. They argue that the slick and easy slogans of the New Atheism simply conceal evidential and rational deficits. And sooner or later, my atheist friends, somebody is going to notice these simplistic slogans just don't match up with reality. And I think these guys are right. They need to be apprehensive because, slogans are meant to be supplements to argument. But with some of these New Atheist writers, they displace argument. The slogan is what convinces. If it's snappy and breezy, that's it. What about the evidence? I represent the evidence-based school of Christianity, and I find the New Atheism really quite perplexing. It can't last, because sooner or later people are going to start asking these hard questions. And in fact, they are. They're asking these questions, the conversation is getting underway all over again, and it's starting to get interesting. Now, if the New Atheism wanted to get a debate underway, it certainly succeeded. Certainly everybody wants to talk about God now. In Britain, the influential Economist magazine published God's obituary in 2000. In 2007, they issued a correction. They said, "We were so confident of the Almighty's demise, we published his obituary in our millennium issue." But now they said, that's clearly not right. Religion is so obviously back in public life and in public debate. In fact, it's worse than that if you're a new atheist. Two journalists from the same Economist went on to publish a bestseller in 2009. Listen to its title, God is Back. How the global revival of faith is changing the world. Now, I and many others have welcomed this debate. It seems to me, as it seems to so many other people, that the new atheism has raised all kinds of questions of fundamental importance, like, for example, the rationality of faith, or the relation of religion and science, or the link between religion and violence. It's a great conversation, but it's a conversation with a long way to go. And certainly some in the new atheist community, here I rely on websites, seem to think that because Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens have spoken, that settles the issue. Well, I'm afraid it doesn't. They've begun a conversation, they've raised interest, people have looked at their answers, and they've said, no, that's not good enough. It's not just simple, it's simplistic. We need to go further. And that's what I try to do in this book, Why God Won't Go Away. But first, let me give praise where praise is due. Let me begin by thanking Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens for causing this new cultural interest in God and religion. There's no doubt they have really launched a tidal wave of interest in the question of God. Instead of closing the debate down, of course, they've opened it wide open. It's never been so easy to talk about God or to find an interested audience for questions of belief, meaning and ultimate significance. So thank you for getting this discussion underway. But the discussion has moved on since 2006. We're in new and much more interesting territory now. Simplistic slogans, God is a delusion, religion kills, well, that was so yesterday. It's time for a serious discussion about the issues. So, where shall we begin our conversation? Well, I think a great place to begin is the whole question of what faith is. And so in my next posting, I'm going to look at the whole question of faith. The new atheists write faith off as some kind of mental delusion. It's a great slogan. Faith is mental illness. Well, yes, but we need to talk about this. We need to think about this. And actually, it's not that simple at all. Far from being some kind of deficiency, faith actually is just a routine and necessary aspect of human existence, including, of course, in the natural sciences. New atheist apologists present themselves as having no faith or beliefs. Here's another slick and superficial new atheist slogan. Our belief is not a belief. That, by the way, is from Christopher Hitchens. But it's just not like that. It's obviously not like that. Hitchens may think he's just stating the simple truth, but in all honesty, I have to tell you, he's just shooting off simplistic slogans. It's much more interesting than that. In fact, it's much more significant than that, as I hope to show in my next posting.